Hi everyone, welcome to this video about the present simple verb tense in English. There are 12 verb tenses in English, but each of them have their own rules for spelling, for usage. So we're going to begin looking at each of these verb tenses individually. This video is about the present simple tense. Let's take a look. The present simple tense is used to indicate usual, true, unchanging situations and facts. Okay, so let's take a look at what some of those things might be, what this looks like. Here are some examples. The first one is habits and routines, actions that happen regularly. So if you do something every day, every morning, every week, every year, you can use the present simple tense. For example, she walks to work every day. Walks is the verb in the present simple tense. You can also use this tense to talk about general truths and facts, things that are always true. Okay. For example, the sun rises in the east. Rises is the verb in the present simple tense. Okay. Unchanging situations, states that are constant, something that is not changing. For example, I live in a big city. That has no plans to change. Okay. When you're talking about your emotions and your wishes, describing feelings or desires, desires are wants, something you want. Okay. An example, he wants more time. Wants is the verb in the present simple tense. Fixed future arrangements. So if you know a specific time or a schedule or a reliable date or time that something happens, you can use the present simple tense, even though this is going to happen in the future. Remember, this tense is about things that are unchanging and true. Routines are part of that, but also schedules. Okay. The movie starts at 7 p.m. Okay. Starts is in the present simple tense. And even though the movie will begin later in the future, okay, it is part of a schedule, part of a routine, a time that doesn't change. Next, instructions and directions, step-by-step guidance. If you are helping someone to navigate doing something, so if you're reading the GPS from your phone, turn left here, turn right up here, you say it in the present simple tense. Also, if you're explaining to someone how to make something, you might say step by step how to do it, and those steps will be in the simple present tense. Finally, we use the simple present tense when we're narrating something. Narration is when someone or something is explaining what is happening. Okay. So if you are telling a story and you want to make it more exciting, or you are watching sports on TV and listening to the commentators, the people speaking about the game, they might be talking in a different tense and then say, the runner crosses the finish line for excitement. Okay. So when someone is narrating, they do so in the present simple tense as well. All right, let's keep going. So, a reminder, the present simple tense can often be referred to as the permanent tense. Permanent means never changing. Okay. So we're talking about things that have no plans to change. They are going to stay this way. Again, it's used to indicate usual, true situations and facts, things that are repeated or unchanging. Okay. The important thing to know is that the verb will change based on the subject of your sentence. So if you look over here, we have the subjects, I, you, we, and they. And we have the subjects she, he, and it. Okay. If you're using I, you, we, or they, the verb is used in its base or infinitive form. We don't change it. I ask a question. I cook dinner every day. You do your homework. Okay. We don't have to change the verb. This is the verb in its base infinitive form. However, if we are talking about she, he, or it, we need to change the verb. And we're going to add, usually, an S or ES to the end. Okay. So if I ask a question, I ask. She asks questions in class. Okay. He cooks dinner every night. If you're talking about the cat, the cat, needs more food. Okay. And here is the formula. Sometimes it helps us to think of the rules almost like we think of math. How do you put this together? Okay. So here is the formula. It is your subject, I, you, we, they, she, he, it, plus your verb. And if needed, the S or ES on the end. Okay. So let's continue working with this. Here's our formula again. So the big question is, when you are using he, she, or it, how do you know whether you need S or ES? How do you know how to spell the word, especially in writing? There are specific spelling rules for this verb tense and doing this to the ends of the verbs, okay? So again, this is only for he, she, or it. Here are the spelling rules. For most verbs, you're just going to add S to the end, okay? Just like how we make a noun plural, right? More than one in English, we often add S, right? Cat becomes cats. Dog becomes dogs. Same idea here, okay? For most verbs, we're just going to add S. But there are some exceptions. If the verb ends in CH, SH, S, X, or Z, you add ES to the end of the verb. If the verb ends in a consonant, so those are all the letters that are not vowels, not A, E, I, O, or U, okay? If it ends in a consonant and a Y, you change the Y to IES for the end of the verb. And if your verb ends in a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, and Y, you just add S. So we will look at these rules right now together with some examples, okay? So most verbs add S. Work becomes works. He works from home on Fridays. Speak becomes speaks. She speaks 3 languages. And live becomes lives. It lives in the forest. Okay, so that's most verbs adding S. Here is the next rule. So verbs that end in CH, SH, S, X, or Z, and we're going to add ES. Watch becomes watches. He watches the news every evening. Finish becomes finishes. She finishes work at 5:00 p.m. Fix becomes fixes. He fixes broken computers. And finally, pass becomes passes. She passes the park on her way to school. Okay? So those are examples for those 2 rules. We'll continue with more. Here are the last 2 spelling rules. If a verb ends in a consonant, So these letters or more, okay, plus Y, you change the Y to IES. So study, D is a consonant, and it ends in Y. Study becomes studies with IES. She studies biology at university. Try becomes tries. He tries his best in every game. Fly becomes flies. The bird flies south for the winter. And finally, if a verb ends in a vowel, A, E, I, O, or U, and a Y, you just add S. So you don't always change the Y. Okay, I put this here because I don't want you to think every time I see Y, it's IES. That's not true. If the consonant comes before the Y, we have DY, RY, LY, then you change it to IES. If there is a vowel and then the Y, you only add S. So for example, play becomes plays. He plays tennis on Saturdays. Say becomes says. She always says hello to her neighbors. And buy becomes buys. He buys groceries once a week. Okay. So you can see that these ones all have the vowel A-Y, A-Y, U-Y. Vowel plus Y, just add S. Okay. So those are all the spelling rules for how to know how to write the ending of the verb if your subject is she, he, or it. Okay. Here are some of the irregular verbs in this tense. Okay. So these ones do not follow the rule. Okay. We don't just change the end of the verb. So the verb to be, okay, it would be I am, you, we, they are, he, she, it is. This is probably a verb you are familiar with, you're used to using, and you know how to use it. So here's a reminder of the to be in English. I am, you, we, they are, he, she, it is. Have, it's unchanged for I, you, we, they. I have, you have, we have, they have. For he, she, it changes into has. He has, she has, it has. Do does not change for these subjects. I do, you do, we do, they do. He, she, it does. Okay. Go remains the same for I, you, we, they. I go, you go, we go, they go. He, she, or it goes. He goes, she goes, it goes. And can is special because can never changes in this sense. I can, you can, we can, they can, he can, she can, it can. So can is irregular because it does not change depending on the subject. Okay. Finally, here's a slide that is like a summary. It shows you everything on one slide if you're trying to study and trying to learn this. Let me just explain what you're looking at, but this is a nice slide to pause your video and read through on your own. Here is the present simple tense in the positive form, right? And this is what we just talked about. I cook, you cook, we cook, they cook. If it's he, she, or it, we added S. Cooks. He cooks, she cooks, it cooks. If you want to negate that sentence and you want to say no, you do it with do or does. I do not cook. You do not cook. We do not cook. They do not cook. He, she, and it, we use does. He does not cook. She does not cook. It does not cook. I also want to explain that here, in speaking especially, people often use contractions. That's when we put two words together. So do not can become don't. I do not cook. I don't cook. They mean the same thing. Okay. He does not cook. He doesn't cook. They mean the same thing. Contractions are always a choice. You don't have to use them. If it's easier and better for you to say do not and does not, that is 100% perfect and good in English. Now, with asking a question in the present simple tense, you begin with do and does. Do I cook? Do you cook? Do we cook? Do they cook? And we would use does for he, she, it. Does he cook? Does she cook? Does it cook? And then when you're answering, of course you could just say yes or no. But a more formal way to answer a question, like do you cook, would be to say yes, I do. Or no, I do not. Or no, I don't. Okay. So this chart right here shows how to answer yes or no questions and how to do that with do and does. Okay. This is the end of my video on the present simple tense. Again, this might be a nice spot to pause and practice making sentences, making negative sentences with no or not, asking questions, and then answering those questions. Thanks for watching the video.